And he'll be sleeping with somebody. He be like, "Who you slept with that?"
Yeah.
There was a video that reminded me of that. So there was a video of a guy who didn't know that he was dancing on a guy.
Oh, I think I must
It was like an African kind of guy. He was dancing on somebody. Then he noticed it was a dude, and he backed up, and he kept looking like, "Oh my goodness,
what have I done?"
yeah."
It's you
And
know
they
what?
don't realize that they think that shouldn't be a reaction.
Well, I think it's even worse. I think if somebody convinces you and tricks you into it, I think that's sexual assault.
That should be.
I think that's like the equivalent. You can't say it on YouTube, but grape juicing. I think that's grape juicing somebody when you do that.
Yeah.
You cannot sit up here and trick somebody and not tell them, but you're required to tell them about STDs and everything else.
Yep.
But then you get the man in bed and you pull off your whole, you disrobe, as the thing said, and now it's a whole man, and you've been kissing on this dude all night. That's how people get killed in the hood, man.
Well,
I've heard a story of a dude dying
happens.
like that.
The thing that's weird about it though is they would argue and say, "Hey, since you were initially attracted, the only thing that stopped you was your bigotry. It stopped you from going through the act."
Okay.
But what they don't counter with it is this. Let's say that I'm hitting on a girl and she's good looking and I find out she's 16.
Oh.
And now I lose all attraction, right? And I should. Because just because I'm
it changed everything.
Yes, knowing more about the person should impact my thing. And it shouldn't just be a sexual thing. So what it tells is you're shaming men for not just being shallow. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So if you're not a shallow dude and you just look at whatever you see you like.
It's funny that you bring that up because I was watching this debate and it was by this guy who is a self-proclaimed like guru on women. And he was debating something along the lines of the morality of sleeping around before marriage. And he was debating with Andrew Wilson, one of my favorite debaters. And they were debating and it came to light that this man, he said he had slept with thousands of women, but 2 of them were men. And he was like, but there were beautiful trans women. My whole attitude about this man changed. Because I'm like, you just sleep with anything then. You're just a degenerate.
Yep.
How are you teaching men, how to get girls, and the girls you get are men?
but that's, to be honest with you, that's what happens to most dudes who sleep around like that. Because when you want to sleep around like that, unless you have a whole lot of status when you start or a whole bunch of money or something.
You taking what you get.
You taking what you can get. And I'm not saying those dudes sleep with men, but some of them, they sleep with some ugly women.
Well, here's
I've
the
seen
thing.
some dudes that I thought like, oh man, that's a good looking dude. And he'll be sleeping with somebody, he be like, who you slept with that?
Yeah.
But it's just a number. It's just not.
I've heard a lot of some of these red pill dudes talk about get your numbers up and stuff like that. When you in the club, you're drinking and the light is hitting you just right. You don't necessarily know who you're dealing with. No. In fact, there's girls when we and you used to go out where the light, you would get them out in the light or in the sunlight or whatever, and you would see all the makeup they got caked on, and you'd be like, "This girl's just hideous." Now imagine all that, but yet it's a man. That can happen to some of these dudes. I feel sorry for the next generation.
I would feel bad if it's an accident. I would feel horrible for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would feel horrible. But if you did it knowing,
nah, you gotta go, man. You can't.
I lose all respect.
You can't play for our team.
You go from a victim to a perpetrator. I really like you. At one point, I'm feeling sorry for it. Then, like you knew. Then I gotta watch you.
Imagine unwrapping a man's butt and still saying, "I'm still going through with this. I like it enough."
I've gone too far.
There's no going back.
I can't say.
He gotta complete the mission. He completed the mission after knowing
I came looking for booty
that it was man's butt. No, man.
To me, that's like a false start. You just blow the whistle and be like, "All right, man, this player's dead." Not him. He like, we carry it through.
Some people just don't know how to take an L. They have to win.
Is that a win?
It's just
Is that a win?
To some people, man.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know, man. Let me read some of these verses because everything we do in our philosophy comes from the Bible. Let me read. One of my favorite verses of all time, Leviticus 18:22. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination.
People don't like that verse.
Oh, they don't like it. Because it's just cut and dry right there. It ain't no getting around it.
Yep. Even Christians don't even like that verse. And the reason they don't is because they think it's too harsh. But when you reflect on the fact that God's word is perfect, it's not too harsh. It's exactly what it is. And it is an abomination. It goes against everything we're given. And the thing, I think people forget, like the first command, one of the first commands, be fruitful and multiply.
Yep.
There's nothing fruitful in two men or two women getting together.
It's an abomination. It goes against the core of everything God said for society, for family, for love, marriage, for everything. Yes, companionship. The even using a weird term of yin and yang that man provide each other. You know, like how we fit into each other. Even them being emotional, us being logical. We work together because God created us to be like that. And when you look at that and say, nah, we're scrapping all that.
Yep.
We're going to put two Adam's apples together. Like, at some point, somebody has to say this is enough is enough. Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God. Is that not a straight up punch to all the nonsense we see today?
It is, but it betrays the fact that when people act like that, they're lying. So they're lying to themselves. They're saying, hey, I'm a woman. You know you a man. You've been born that way. And there's nothing wrong with you being a man, but you're saying it's something wrong. And so right from there, you're lying. You're saying you're something you're not. And then you're trying to present to everybody else that you're something you're not. It is sad because you want everybody else to then buy into your lie, which reality will make me be a liar too. I'm not going to be a liar for you.
That's why I said, I think it was on one of our first episodes, is that it is against godly principles to use the pronouns that somebody tells you have to use. And the reason why is because you are telling me to lie. You're telling me to say that person is a woman when I know for a fact in my heart that they're not. I can't go against what God commanded me just to appease you. And then there's this group of Christians who say, well, you should do it from the kindness of your heart because you know that's what that person wants. No. There's plenty of things that people want that you have to tell them the truth because the truth will help them way more than what they temporarily want. Somebody can say, you know what, I want to do X, and X might hurt them. You're just going to let them do whatever?
But listen, doing what you want, when did that ever become a standard for anything? Right? Because if you talk to, whatever happened to no means no, right? So if you want something, let's imagine I go on a date with a girl and I want to have sex with her. She says no. I can't just take it. And so this idea that you could just want something and therefore it has to be given, that's a rapist mentality. And it's not odd when you look in the Bible and you see somebody that falls into the homosexual mindset, soon after comes Sodom and Gomorrah. And it's not, therefore, it's not offered freely anymore. It's taken.
Yeah.
And that's what that leads to. It leads to that idea because when you think about it, lying is really close to taking. Right? Deception is really close to thievery. And when you deceiving somebody, in fact, it's almost comes to the point where you almost can't steal unless you do lie. Or you can't lie without stealing.
Well, you got to lie to yourself and say, I deserve this more than the person that owns it. And say, this belongs to me and this is my property and not your property, even though I'm taking it from your possession. And that's a lie in itself because why are you so important that you get to take somebody else's stuff? You have to lie to yourself and say, I'm more important than that person.
Yep.
And it's just
how far off from that is that saying you're God.
Yep.
You declare your own being. The only one who can declare their own being is God. God says, I am who I am. So he says, I declare my own being, my own existence. Only God can do that. But you're saying, I declare I'm a woman and you're a man?
Yep, absolutely. It defines everything because one of the reasons why I say that homosexuality and that a lot of the degeneracy, especially with the trans movement, is very, very parallel to Satanism, if not Satanism itself, is because Satanism says, do what thou wilt. Do what you want to do. And the trans movement and the gay movement and the LGBTQ and all this nonsense has the same mantra. They will come out and they say, I want to do what I want to do, and that takes precedent above any principles, anything that came before me, any tradition, any way that any biblical text says that I should live. Everything that goes at the top of the hierarchy of needs is I want to do this. And because I want it so bad, it must be right.
Yep, it's a toddler mentality. Right? Toddlers think the world ends if they don't get what they want.
Yep.
Right? And that's the same thing with a criminal. A criminal is just a person who's a toddler in an adult's body. They will not take no for an answer. But when you get that trans mentality, that's what you got. Everybody has to accept my reality. My fiction has to become your reality. I don't care.
And then
make you accept
the other thing that really angers me that you're trying to push to young malleable minds is, like in the video it says, now it's not enough that you accept me. Now I have to shame you for not sleeping with me.
Sure, but that works though.
I guess.
No, but think about it this way. Why would they be doing it if it doesn't work?
I think they're doing it because they're desperate.
No, but I think they do it because it works. And that's what's more dangerous about it. Because think of it this way. If you have somebody that has a malleable mind, and they're thinking there and they're saying, man, they watching that TikTok and they say, well, maybe it is something wrong with me that I won't sleep with these ones. That's what they're thinking. Because they wouldn't do it if it doesn't work. Satan has inspired them to do things that work. And I think it's the same. What happens is, too, is think about that dude who slept with the men, but said he slept with a lot of women. Once you do that, let's say it's a mistake, but now in your mind, Satan can always say, you did it once. And so what happens when you did it once, it's easy to do it twice. When you do it twice, it's easy to do it 3 times. And so it's Satan's way of just pulling you down that cliff to degeneracy.
That's true.
And it's hard to get out because when you're a degenerate, it's hard to get out. It's no different than drug addiction.
Yeah.
Once you get addicted to something, it's hard to get out. And now you're trying to get out, and now you're clawing to get out.
Yep.
And you start to realize then the reality of Scripture that sin is slavery. But it takes, sometimes you don't know that it's slavery until you try to say no to it. And the more you go down that degenerous route, the more chains get put around your neck. And it's sad when you see it.
Yeah. In fact, I had a couple of friends who said the same exact thing. They said that and they were explaining to me because a couple of them lived in Cali, and I was like, how do people get caught up into a lot of the degeneracy? And he said, listen, man, you just don't know. A lot of dudes will come there and not even be gay. And what they'll do is they'll have no place to live because they have went to live with, or they came there with this attitude of, I want to be an actor and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it. And they use and get down to their last dime, and some rich gay dude will take them when they're on rock bottom and say, listen, you can stay with me. Just come sleep in the bed with me. You don't have to do anything. And then over months and months, he said they will be maneuvering these men who are not gay and need money and need a place to stay, to edging them closer and closer to doing gay stuff, to getting them drunk, to come into gay parties until people will recognize them as a couple, until they get them to do gay little activities for money. And then next thing you know, everybody thinks they're gay and they like, dude, now I'm in it.
Yep.
I can't get out.
You can't.
And people talk about that with the Diddy parties and things like that.
But that's not, but think of it. That's what pimps do.
Yep.
Right? So a pimp will break a girl down, and they break them down, and we think about that, and it's sad that we think about how ruthless it is. But that's what they do to men too. You can break down a man. It takes a little, it's harder. But you can break down a man. And sometimes, and that's why I always tell people, your internal honesty will betray you. Because at some point you can't keep lying and can't keep stealing. If somebody offers you something, you will feel that you owe them. The question going is, what do they want?
Yep.
And if you keep taking money from somebody, that's why a girl should never accept something free from a dude.
Exactly.
Unless she really think a relationship is coming. Because once you take it, there is an expectation. And you might say, well, I'm not going to give it to him. In your mind, you know you're wrong for not. Because you can't take something for nothing. You know that. So you eventually going to have to give him something. What will that something be? It's going to have to be what he wants. What does he want? And so never enter into a transaction that is unclear to you. That should be obvious. But when it's obvious what the other person want and they just not saying it, I wouldn't accept nothing from that person.
Yeah, a lot of people try to act naive with that stuff too.
Yeah, you act naive to your own peril because you gonna get something.
You gonna get
You
something.
gonna give him something. Yeah.